Greetings, everybody. Hold on a second. Hold on. What am I doing here? Okay. Yeah, I know. I need some things to look at while I'm trying to do this shit. Okay. Well, anyway. Hey, everybody. Tommy Rad here. Welcome back to the channel. Today is October 5th, 2025. Yeah, this is where we dive into stories, bands, and movements that shaped the punk and hardcore history. Today, we're talking about one of the cornerstones of New York hardcore, Sick of It All. Whether you're a longtime fan or you just stumbled across the surface, this band's story is pure New York hardcore energy. Alright, so stick around because we're going to break down their origins, their impact on hardcore worldwide, and why they still matter after nearly 4 decades. Before we go into this, so please smash that like button, comment, and if you're a new subscriber, please subscribe to this channel. Also, I want to say that Lou, his cancer came back, and of course he's going to need as much help as possible. I will post a link to his GoFundMe page in a pinned comment right under this video. Okay. All right. Now let's get back to what I'm going to talk about. Okay. All right. Sick of It All formed in I believe either somewhere from 1985 to 86 in Queens, New York, during the time when the scene was exploding with bands like Agnostic Front, Cro-Mags, Murphy's Law. Founded by brothers Lou and Pete Koller, along with Rich Cipriano on bass. They had a drummer in the band, I forget his name, but he went to the military. And he was replaced with Armin Majidi, who was also playing in Straight Ahead as a drummer and Rest in Pieces as a singer at the same time. The running joke was at that time was like that they were actively looking for a drummer, and Armin was filling in, but they weren't trying to find a new drummer. Okay, they started playing local shows and before quickly, moving into CBGBs and Pyramid Club, infamous Sunday matinees. What them set apart early on was their blend of street level toughness with the energy that they provided in a world full of hate. The self-titled 7-inch on Revelation Records in 1987 became an underground classic. It was raw, fast, and spoke directly to the working class kids who packed those tiny venues. I remember that one time, when Trip 6 actually opened up for them and cracked down at Right Track Inn. That place was awful, but it was a place to play. Okay, the band became a central pillar of New York hardcore's second wave. Their lyrics weren't just about anger; they were about loyalty and family and standing your ground. I think Lou and Pete quoted in an interview in some fanzine, like as far as like certain things like unity and stuff like that they just haven't found the answers. They stated that they haven't found the answers for those things yet. They had a song called The Deal. I mean, basically, they weren't sugarcoating. They weren't sugarcoating anything in that song. That's as far as their perspective of what that was about. Okay, hold on a second, They had songs like Friends Like You and Injustice System from their 1989 debut album, Blood and Sweat and No Tears, captured that perfectly. Unlike some bands who came and went, Sick of It All built their reputation on relentless touring and crowd interaction. Where the kids had that wall of death and that pit. Like as soon as its clobbering time started. Their live shows became legendary for huge sing-alongs, swirling pits, and pile-ups, and that unmistakable New York hardcore energy. Even if you didn't know the band, you knew when you saw those Chain Link Fence album covers or Dragon logos, you were looking at Sick of It All. Yeah, I remember that Mobb Deep tried to rip off their Alleyway Dragon logo. Well, that's some kind of bullshit right there. I think there was some legal action taken too against them. I don't know what came of that, but that's all I'll say. By the early 90s, with albums like Just Look Around and the Big Breakthrough Scratch the Surface, around this time, actually before that, between Blood and Sweat and No Tears and Just Look Around, they had a minor lineup change where Armand and Rich both left the band, and then you had EK from Warzone and Eddie Cohen that used to play in Altercation, Leeway, and some other bands on bass. Yeah, EK played drums. Can't forget that. Okay, so they actually did some touring because I think they did the We Stand Alone 7-inch. You know, it looks like an underground. It looks that We Stand Alone 7-inch looks like that could have been put out by an underground record label, but it wasn't. I believe in effect put that out. Now, and I remember seeing them play with this lineup at City Gardens. They were playing with AF and Bouncing Souls back in '91. Me and Stu Psycho went. It was like, I think, one of the first shows that Stu Psycho actually saw after he got out of jail. And then when Just Look Around came out, Armand and Rich were back in the band. But after AF broke up, Rich was no longer in the band, and he was replaced by Craig Satari. I have my own nickname for him, Scully. Hey, Scully, what's up, Scully? Yeah, Just Look Around was put out by Relativity Records, where they got rid of all their subsidiary labels at that time. They got rid of Combat and In Effect. They were, and then Sick of It All signed with East West Records, Scratch the Surface. They were one of the few bands crossing into mainstream rock and metal audiences without losing their credibility. Sick of It All wasn't just big in New York. They took New York hardcore to the world. They toured places like Europe, South America, and Japan, and became ambassadors for the scene at a time when hardcore was still largely underground and they were introducing kids in far-off countries. Let me fix something here. Alright, I think that's a little bit better now. Okay, alright. Okay. This is at a time when hardcore was still largely underground. They were introducing kids in far-off countries to stage dives and that raw New York City hardcore crowd sound. I mean, that raw New York City sound. What am I saying? They influenced a generation of bands across hardcore, punk, and even metal. If you listen to modern bands like Terror, Hate Breed, or Comeback Kid, you hear echoes of that Sick of It All style. Fast but tight, angry but with purpose, breakdowns built for the pit. Over the years, they adapted. They adapted over the years. You know, this is a band that this is one of the few bands out there that's been playing since they first started and did not break up and come back together to do a reunion. They were active. That's something that few bands could not accomplish in this era. I mean, most of the hardcore punk bands that we knew didn't last no more than 5 years, and then even if they did come back for a reunion, either whether they stayed together or not, or broke up. I mean, like you look at a band like that has an anniversary, but then say like a band played for 2 years, they broke up, and then they decided to come back again 20 years later, and are playing today, saying it's their 20-year anniversary, 20. That don't count. Come on. All those years you weren't doing shit, and then you're trying to say that you're celebrating a 25th anniversary. Come on. That don't count. Anyway. One thing that was most impressive about Sick of It All is their longevity. While many New York hardcore bands fizzled out, broke up, or reinvented themselves, Sick of It All kept pushing forward, album after album, tour after tour, without losing their identity. Lou Koller has always been a force of nature. Pete's riffs still hit like a freight train. Armand's drumming still a clinic on hardcore precision. And Craig Ahead had those solid bass lines. They've adapted their sound while chasing trends later. Records like Death to Tyrants, Waking the Sleeping Dragon prove they can still write anthems that just hit as hard as their classics. Why does Sick of It All matter today? Because they embody the spirit of hardcore as a community. Their shows aren't just concerts, they're gatherings. Their lyrics still resonate with anyone who feels like an outsider fighting for something real. They've also supported benefit shows, causes, and always made a point of giving back to the scene that raised them. I remember that Sick of It All, they Rejuvenate played a Rabies tribute show with Sick of It All headlining. And one of the things that stood out at the end of the show, that they were holding on, they said, Lou made an announcement that they were holding on to the money to make sure it goes to where it was supposed to go. Sometimes these benefits had ulterior motives where the money did not go to where it was supposed to go. But anyway. And I remember, we played a show with Sick of It All at the first Black and Blue Bowl. At the time, it was called the Super Bowl of Hardcore, but then they, decided not to use that name no more. But that first year was the Super Bowl of Hardcore, before renaming it Black and Blue Bowl, which was put on by Cousin Joe and Black and Blue Productions. In a world where trends come and go, Sick of It All stands as proof that hardcore isn't just a style; it's a lifelong commitment. So right now, Sick of It All has not been active due to Lou Koller being sick with cancer. He had, last year around the same time that my book came out, that's about a year ago. He was diagnosed with throat cancer, and he recovered from that. But now a year later, it's creeped back in. It's reared its ugly head. So in the comment below that's pinned, I will have a link to his GoFundMe page where you can help him out. I mean, these guys were doing the band as an actual job. They actually made Sick of It All become a job for them. The only thing is, there's one job that doesn't provide healthcare coverage. Thankfully, I had healthcare coverage through my job. When I was dealing with chronic myeloid leukemia, and I still had it, but then I had some problems like trying to find proper health care down here in Florida. Thank goodness for that. I have to travel a little bit to go to this doctor, but I had to move closer to where this doctor is. So knock on wood for that. Gotta stay lucky. Stay lucky. Okay? But aside from me talking about my situations, so help Lou out. Help Lou out. Okay? Help him out. Get sick of it all back to playing shows again. Come to Florida. They come to Florida, I'll go see them. Alright, so that's about it for this video. So whether you've been here since the 1980s or you're discovering them now, Sigvidal deserves your attention. Check out their early records like Blood, Sweat, and No Tears. Their classics like Scratch the Surface, and then newer albums like Wake the Sleeping Dragon. Drop a comment below with your favorite Sigvidal song or your best show memory. I'd love to read them and maybe feature some in a future video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit notification bell for more deep dives into punk and hardcore history. This is Tommy Rat signing off. See you in the next one. If you like what you saw, please share, comment, smash that like button. Show the YouTube algorithm that we're doing the right thing here. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. Thank you again for watching.